Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC 273. We're back. A week off. We've got a great card to break down. Paul Shaughnessy, Cody Saftic joining me on the line. Cody, I mean, you told everybody you're going to Cuba, but like I've looked you up and down. I looked at like the pastiness of your skin. It's still on par. Maybe it's your lighting, something like that. Like I'm calling fake news on you going to Cuba, or otherwise, like I don't know. Like, are you like an SPF 60 Saftic? Are you just,
no, man?
bathing in that shit?
Tanning's a process, dog. You can't just go a few times, then all of a sudden just be like, yeah, man, check me out. I'm 10 shades darker. Like I went, got a massive sunburn, got the pictures of the sunburn I can send you. And yeah, I don't know. And then what? You start to peel. Once you peel, you're back to white boy Cody. It's just the way I am. It's the way I was born. Not much I can do about it. But even if you were to go tanning like Phil Baroni style, it's not like these guys just go to a tanning bed, get in there, and then walk out tan. It's like they go 3 times a week. They go 3 times a week for an hour, and there has to be like a session and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. Yeah, Cuba was a great time. It was good to not have to think about, while I watched the card on ESPN Deportes, Santiago Ponzinibbio, a better commentator than the American guys, simply because you know what they're saying. It's actually much more enjoyable when they're not talking, to be honest with you. But yeah, had a great time, and this is a great card to come back to. So pumped up, and hopefully we can make it a winning one.
Yep, pitter patter. Let's get at her. We've got Alexander Volkanovski taking on the Korean Zombie, Chansung Jung, minus 760 for Volkanovski, plus 525 for the challenger, Chansung Jung. I mean, we're used to seeing Volkanovski being the favorite, but you know, the books are sick of people parlaying this guy, and they've definitely hung a big number. This number's just basically sat here all week. I imagine Volkanovski is going to end up at the top of your parlays. How can you not like this guy? He's really worked on a complete MMA game. His striking's on point. He's got good wrestling. He got out of some of the most dangerous submission attempts by Brian Ortega you'll ever see in your life. He's a great champion. He's a great all-around mixed martial artist. Minus 760 is a hell of a price tag. I'm picking him to win. I don't know how I really get to this, though, because I'm not too sure about whether he gets the finish or whether this fight goes to decision. I do have a little bit of interest in the under 4.5 rounds. Strictly one, because I saw in some videos, I mean, he's promoting a fight, but he's just like, I think I get him out of there within the first 3 rounds. 2, we've seen Chansung Jung compromised a little bit. You know, the Yair Rodriguez elbow dying seconds, that knockout. George Roop knocked him out like 10 or 12 years ago. You can kind of probably throw that. Yeah, you can kind of probably throw that out, but I'm interested maybe. I wanted to hear what you had to say, but I'm interested potentially in playing the under 4.5 rounds plus 130. But yeah, the money line on Volkanovski is just so steep.
Yeah, okay, so first and foremost, money line Volkanovski. Of the 3 big favorites on the card, I think I like Alexander Volkanovski the most. Championship material. There's no big red flags on him. Where other people, you can make an argument, what if he's in this position? I know Volkanovski's got cardio for days. I know he can fight 5 rounds. Well, can he take a punch? Oh, yeah. I know he can take a punch. He can take a hell of a punch. He's got the will to win, got the will to win. Can he wrestle? He can wrestle. He can strike. He can do it all. He's been behind in rounds like the Max Holloway fight. Everyone thinks he lost the second fight. I thought he won it, right? Lost the first couple rounds, but does a good job of changing his game plan, right? Going to the leg kicks. He's got high ring IQ. He's got it all. What if he got caught in a deep submission? What if like a guy like Brian Ortega, and it was one of his moves, like a guillotine choke or a triangle choke? He's proved it all, right? He can do everything. So yeah, money line, top ticket. He's the main event anyways. 100% you're rolling with him at the top. Regardless if you think he's going to win or not, you can hedge out once we get to the main event. But he's the end play for sure, right? Now you got to go to the question of inside the distance or not inside the distance, because we're trying to juice it up a little bit. And I actually agree with largely with your train of thought. I think fight doesn't go the distance was plus 120, and that's a good looking price tag as far as I'm concerned. Korean Zombie's a fan favorite, no doubt about it, but why is he getting the title fight? Number 2 guy in the division's Holloway, but Holloway's already lost twice. What about Brian Ortega? Lost. What about Calvin Kattar, well, he'll get his chance coming up. Arnold Allen will have his chance coming up. But Korean Zombie is just going to give you a fun fight. I don't think he deserves a fight. He's just there to entertain the crowd. So there's no major expectation that he's going to go in and win this fight beyond he has a puncher's chance. I just don't think a puncher's chance is enough. Now, as much as we all love him, fan favorite, how could you not get behind the guy? This is interesting enough to me, Paul, right? This is his run since he came back from the Aldo, lost to Aldo, and then had the military service, right? Dennis Bermudez, not a power puncher. He was an athletic wrestler, right? Yair Rodriguez, not a power puncher. He's a fancy striker. He's got some crazy moves, but he's not somebody that sits down and punches and would be considered a power puncher, right? Hanato Moicano, not a puncher. Frank Yeager, this version of Frank Yeager, aged this weight class, definitely not a power puncher. Brian Ortega's not a power puncher. Dan Ige is not a power puncher. So honestly, he's eaten somewhat of 100 punches against some of these guys. He can take it, whereas Volkanovski doesn't seem like a power puncher. That Ortega fight could have got stopped a couple of times, right? He put a savage beating on him. Korean Zombie's best numbers, right? He might be able to put up less than 100 significant strikes in 5 rounds against Dan Ige, right? He puts up 67 significant strikes in a 5-round fight against Brian Ortega. Ortega, by the way, who got absolutely crushed on the feet standing by Volkanovski. Not to use MMA math, but you're seeing Alexander Volkanovski go land 200 significant strikes, 160 significant strikes. The numbers are just far better. He's got the output. He's got the power. I don't think Zombie's going to sustain the beating for the full 25 minutes. So not only are we taking Alexander the Great, of course, we can all agree on that. Yeah, I would take him by TKO and him inside the distance. The under 4.5 makes sense. The fight doesn't go the distance. Makes sense.
Giddy up. They declined at the trader. I was trying to get a little bit more in. It's tough sale. You Ontarians have it good right now. All of these new books opening up. So many opportunities. Poor me. Half of my damn system is gone now. Just because, I absolutely just got owned. Getting absolutely pwned, as the kids would say. It's all going to get up to speed, but everything comes out to Atlantic Canada last. The vaccines, this, that, betting. I've lost like half of my accounts in the last week. And unfortunately, the book that I just tried to bet fight goes to decision no at plus 137 wasn't willing to take the full Paul Shag squeeze. So we'll add more to it as the show goes along. And I've actually knocked the earpiece out of my ear, so I can't even hear Cody. So I'm just gonna lead in with Petr Yan takes on Aljamain Sterling in a rematch. Sterling's been on the shelf, had to get surgery after these two guys fought. Went back and watched this fight, and I mean, Aljamain Sterling is throwing an absurd amount of volume in those first couple of rounds. He's probably winning those rounds on it. The good shots are getting landed by Petr Yan, and Aljamain Sterling set a pace that he couldn't keep. Obviously, everyone knows the illegal knee happens. Sterling eats it, not able to continue. Jung goes on after that to put on a brilliant performance against Corey Sandhagen. Minus 490 Jan, plus 360 Sterling. I mean, I have to go back to Jan because Jan, one of the things about him is this guy seems to really calculate his opponents. And the longer the fight goes on, he figures it out more. Now he's already got 4 rounds of data. I think he starts out a lot better in this fight. And we've already seen that the only way for Aljamain Sterling to win was to really utilize that wrestling. I think he was like 1 of 12 on his takedowns. Or 2, set a pace that is just so much stuff coming at Petr Yan that he can't really counter. But he kind of proved that he wasn't able to keep that pace over the course of 5 rounds. Like the writing was on the wall. Round 4, it was getting real dicey. Like you could smell the blood in the air. I think Jan wins again. I'm not too scared. I don't love the nearly minus 500, but Jan for me. What about you?
Yeah, Jan for me as well, but man, I'm worried about it. And I got like a snagging suspicion that there could be a potential apple pie shit in play, right? You mentioned Aljamain Sterling needs to rely on his wrestling. I don't think so. I think Aljamain Sterling needs to run away. I think he needs to play a smart game plan where he just picks a shot or two at a time, because he's good with volume, right? He'll just throw these rinky-dink kicks and he'll throw the jab, but he's quick-footed. So as long as he just jabs and kicks and then just gets out of dodge, they're fighting in the big octagon. There's a ton of space for 135-pound guys to work in, and he just needs to fight an ultra-conservative game plan that revolves around landing more shots. The last time they fought, you absolutely nailed it, right? He comes out, I think he throws 73 significant strikes in the first round. Like, what are you doing, dude? You think you're going to knock him out? You're not going to. And you're not going to be able to sustain this pace for 25 minutes. So I thought he won the first round. Everybody thinks he wins the first round. And then he starts to tire. In the second round, he actually outstrikes Petr Yan as well, right? Does he win the second round? Well, it's closer, but he outstrikes him. The third round, he gets outstruck 30-29 by Petr Yan. This fight is close. In fact, the fights end up being, I think it's like 96-85 for Aljo in the end. Like he loses, well, he ends up winning the fight, disqualification, but he's outstriking him on the numbers. But the significance of the strikes is all Petr Yan. Petr Yan's hurting him. Petr Yan's backing him up. But one has to wonder if he didn't just maybe blow his entire cardio endurance in the first round and then fought poorly after that. So interesting enough with Petr Yan is that he's a slow starter, and him getting outstruck in the first couple of rounds is nothing new to anybody. So you look at his subsequent fight with Corey Sandhagen. This is interesting, man. He gets outstruck 37-19 in the first round. He gets outstruck 45-38 in the second, outstruck 37-36 in the third, finally outstrucks Corey Sandhagen 36-25 in the fourth round, and then himself gets outstruck again 25-20 in the fifth. It's a close fight. It's a decision fight where both guys have moments. Of course, the significance of Petr Yan's shots is what wins him. But you got people online complaining. Some people, they think Sandhagen won. Sandhagen outstrikes him in 4 of the 5 rounds, officially by the numbers. That shit is greasy. We have a 5-1 favorite here. Aljamain Sterling is universally the most hated fighter in MMA. Who doesn't hate Aljamain Sterling? Because he faked it and this and that. People just don't like the guy, right? So him getting booed, that's not a big deal. You think he's going out there with the game plan of I'm going to entertain and try to chase a $50,000 bonus? No. Secure the title. That's the main goal. That's the main objective. He fights a proper game plan. He can just do what other people have done. He himself has already done, which is just beat him on the numbers. Not necessarily the better shots, but more of them. And you could get a couple judges going either way. So as much as I have to top ticket it, right? But I got Volkanovski. You're going to end up having Chimaev. You're going to have these 3 guys as the top ticket. I think everybody bet that 2 weeks ago, which is why I got steamed heavy. Everybody's kind of on the same thing there. Got that nagging suspicion that if one of them is going to blow it, it's going to be Aljo putting that perfect game plan together. The reason why it's not enough for me to pull the trigger the other way or even really consider dropping Petr Yan down significantly is Aljo's had like a major neck surgery since the last time they fought, and Petr Yan's in the gym every day. He just fought Sandhagen in a thrilling 5-rounder. He's got the experience. He's got all that. Like, it's hard to just come off the bench after a significant layoff due to a significant injury and just fight the best guy in the world, right? And so I'll leave you with this last little bit here. There's at least even a chance that this thing ends up being a draw. Not because of a point deduction, right? But because Aljo might win 3 of the rounds and then get 10-8'd at some point. Because he might get tired, and Petr Yan might put a beating on him. And at that point, maybe it ends up being close. I think Clint hit me up yesterday. Shout out to Clint, diehard, saying it was 28-1 plus 2,800 on Aljamain by majority split or something else. Like, it was like I could see this thing being greasier than it needs to be. But Jan's my boy. Who's ever bet against Jan? Not you or I. This is not going to be the first time I do so. Maybe I'm just getting into my own head, but people are writing off Aljo, and I'm not quite ready to do that.
All right, fair enough. Moving on down, we've got Khamzat Chimaev taking on Gilbert Burns. Khamzat Chimaev, minus 525 favorite. Gilbert Burns can be had for plus 385. I know the value boys are out there talking about who has Chimaev beaten. He's beaten, Jingliang Li. That's nobody. Oh, he was ranked number 11, but that was only because he knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio. Man, this guy hasn't beaten anybody. Of course, he's just smashing bums. It's just like, it's less about like who he's fighting and just, this is the greatest debut in the UFC we've ever seen. This is what a generational talent looks like. Somebody who's coming in, changing the game, looks literally indestructible. It's insane. the line does seem wide. Gilbert Burns hits hard. Obviously, he's got the BJJ in his back pocket, but like, I think people who are betting Burns, I think they're really underestimating what Chimaev can do on the feet. And he's only 27. He's been getting better. He's been putting in time with Darren Till. I'm sure he's picked up some tricks, and Till has learned some tricks from him on the other side. But you go back and watch that the Gerald Mearshart fight. It's just like, man, this guy knows how to strike. He knows his footwork is great. His entry into landing the one punch to knock him out was fantastic. You go back and watch some of his Brave fights. He had that one fight, I can't remember against who, but he had like that step in uppercut and then escapes to the left. Like, this may be the best prospect we've ever seen in MMA. And like, you know, I'm a Khabib stan, a Khabib fanboy. Khabib never made it look this easy. I think Chimaev wins. I think Chimaev, put it this way, he's minus 500 against Burns. I've already bet Chimaev plus 175, plus 135, and plus 125. I was the one that moved it at that one book that has it open. I bet him against Usman because I think he rolls through Burns here and he fights for the title. Usman's trying to fight Canelo Alvarez and Leon Edwards, anybody except Khamzat Chimaev, because the writing is on the wall. This is your new champ, and I'm already positioned slightly. I'm going to end up having more if they want to hang more plus money on this guy. This is the best welterweight in the world, and I won't hear anything further.
Yeah, you know what? You're the guy I couldn't believe on this because you were always saying the same thing about Khabib, but I remember people would argue with you, and you'd always get pissed off, and they'd be like, dude, who'd he fight, man? Who's he fought? And it'd be the same thing. It's like, well, who did he fight? Kamal Shalarus, Gleison Tibau, Thiago Tavares, and Abel Trujillo. Those are his first four UFC fights. But he kicked their asses. Abel Trujillo, he set the UFC record for most takedowns in a fight. Gleison one was greasy. Okay. Gleison one's greasy. Yeah. Gleison one's greasy. But at this, you know, he's fighting. Then he fights in Toronto. We were at that fight against Pat Healy, right? 2 fights later, he's fighting Daryl Horcher. Like, there's got to be a method to the madness. Of course, he wants to fight the best guys in the world. But if they offered Colby Covington the fight, Colby would turn it down simply because nobody wants to fight an unranked, unheard of guy who presents a whole lot of problems. And Chimaev's been getting turned down. So he fights what he can. He smashes them when he can. Gilbert Burns presents a step up in competition. I just think stylistically it matches up extremely well for Chimaev. I mean, Burns is undersized. He fought at 155 pounds, whereas Chimaev is talking about making a run at 185. And you can believe him, dude. The guy seems like he can fight at middleweight for sure. He's a gigantic welterweight. He's going to have a big size advantage. That's going to be noticeable at weigh-ins. You're going to be like, oh, no, this is quite a large man. Now, Burns' best weapons is BJJ. Is he going to be able to get the fight to the ground? No. Does Chimaev opt to take Burns down? I think so. Like, I think even though you're playing with fire, it's not hot lava fire. It's not if I take this person down, I'm getting submitted right away. It's if I just get a rear waist body lock, pin this person down, one knee up against the cage and smash them with sledgehammer right hands, create no separation off them. Like, don't let them play guard. Don't let them play stuff like that. I think he'd be okay. But beyond that, Chimaev's got an underrated striking game. Like, again, you haven't really seen it a whole lot. The glimpses that you have seen, the Mearshart fight, the guy can definitely crack. But remember before he came to the UFC, there'd be videos of him training in like All-Star in Sweden. He's training with Alexander Gustafsson, who's a large guy, a light heavyweight. And he drops him with a body kick, you know? Like, he's gone to Las Vegas. Chris the Action Man Curtis says, hands down the strongest guy he's ever felt in a room ever. He's training with some of the best guys in the world. He just gets better and better. This Darren Till thing, I don't know if that benefits him at all, to be honest. I think probably they're getting into trouble more than anything else. But I'm sold on him like you. I think he's a very tough guy, whereas I like to see guys lose a few times so they go back to the drawing board. He might be closer to a Khabib Nurmagomedov that's just going to run through people and get an Umar Nurmagomedov that's just going to continuously get better and better and might not run into that match anytime soon. So to talk about what Burns brings to the table, yeah, okay, maybe he cracks them, right? It's MMA, I get it. Or maybe he throws up submission, all right, I get it. But I've not been the biggest Burns guy throughout the course of his run. You can back me up on this one because you've seen his entire run. But remember, like the Cowboy Oliveira fight, he should take the guy down. He just doesn't. He stands with him for 2 rounds and he gets boxed up. He's lucky that Oliveira always gasses and falls to the floor in the third. He got a submission, but he looked bad. His losses, Rashid Magomedov, Michel Prazeres, Dan Hooker, and then, of course, later on, the Kamaru Usman, right? So outside of Kamaru Usman, he's lost to a bunch of undersized guys that are really not making any splashes in any of the divisions. Meanwhile, his wins, Jason Sago, cut. Dan Morat, cut. Obe Mercier, cut. Mike Davis was making his UFC debut on short notice up a weight class. That's the last time he's ever submitted a guy in the UFC, by the way. Alexander Konchenko cut. Gunnar Nelson, I thought retired, came back to have an uninspiring fight a couple of weeks ago. Damian Maia, I believe he's cut. The UFC might give him like one last one just because it's old Damian Maia, but he's 43 years old. And Tyron Woodley, well, he's cut as well. Like to me, he has no significant wins. He's just beating some guys that had some decent names. And then you get the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight where he gets outstruck by Wonderboy. No surprise there, but he spent like 8 minutes on top of him. Where was his vaunted submission game there, right? Where was his world-class grappling there? No, he got bum takedowns and clung onto him for dear life. He was gassed in the second round. It might have been 1-1 goal. It's a bad, not a good performance as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, he won. He won on the basis of he held a guy down. It's not going to happen against Chimaev. Chimaev rolls. I got him. Same page as you, brother.
All right, we got Mackenzie Dern taking on Tecia Torres, minus 120 Dern, plus 100 for the tiny tornado Tecia Torres. Who you got here, buddy?
So this one, again, you get a little bit of that nervous energy that, geez, what if Mackenzie Dern just does get a couple of takedowns, right? Because she doesn't need to do the submission. She doesn't need to do anything. It's that one takedown would allow her to establish top control. Once she establishes top control, that's probably the end of the round. Wrestling's awful, but Tecia Torres has been taken down by Angela Hill, and Tecia Torres has been taken down by Brianna Van Buren. The second one was a decent little hip toss before the end of the round. If she gets taken down by Dern, she's likely going to get neutralized. But unlike the Petr Yan fight where there's some reservations, this is an even money pickup. I like Torres at those odds for sure. Far more experienced, far better striker. If you thought Marina Rodriguez is a good striker, which she is, she's heavy. She's a little more plodding. She sits down under her punches. She likes to counter a little bit. She's a little flat-footed. So if Dern's going to get a hold of anybody, it's going to be her, right? She should be able to get a hold of her and take her down. Torres is a different animal, man. She's super fast. She's always active. She's in and out. Where she's not sitting down under punches and throwing much power, she's got a lot of volume. And I think she just boxes up Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern's going to be hands outstretched, try to grab a hold of her, try to corner her, try to put her up against the cage. But again, we're in a big cage here, something that should heavily favor Tecia Torres. And just look at her losses, Paul. It's all just the best women in the division. They're all former champions, former champion title challengers. The Zhang Weili fight, at least a highly ranked competitor at the very least. And when you give her people who are got one-dimension skill set or are not very experienced or have issues with their game, she exploits it all day long. Mm-hmm. She going to finish Dern? No chance, because Mackenzie Dern can take one hell of a punch. I think we all can agree on that. And no zero chance she's getting submitted. So like any other Tecia Torres fight, if you're going to bet it, you're going to bet her to win by decision. And I believe that's slightly plus money. So I like Tecia Torres. Of course, this is women's MMA, so you can't go super high with it, I don't think. I think she gets the victory, though. I really do. Yeah,
the fight against Angela Hill was a little bit concerning. But, I don't think she went into that fight thinking Angela Hill's going to try to take me down. So there was, an element of surprise there. And my problem with Mackenzie Dern always is, she's got great jiu-jitsu, and you saw it in the Rodriguez fight. It's when she got it down there, this girl is so slick. I think it was the end of round 4. When she was able to get it down there, it's just if that round is extended another 30 seconds, she probably gets the job done. She probably wins in round 4 after, watching her shoot for takedowns is really struggling. But if she's able to get it down there, well, it's game on. If I was going to play Dern, it would be Dern by sub. I see it plus 250 out there, which is kind of insane. I think that's her main path to victory here.
She's never been finished. Never. Not as a pro, not as an amateur. A decade-long career. You'd think that it's not necessarily a money in the bank submission. She couldn't submit Marina Rodriguez. She had 4 minutes of top control. Looks slick. Couldn't put her away. And then took too long to get going. This is only a 3-round fight.
What I'm saying,
it's women's MMA though. It's gonna get me.
What I'm saying is, if you were going to bet her, that seems like her best path to victory here. When it's on the feet, maybe she lands a massive clubbing shot. Probably not. She's gonna get in the big cage. Tecia Torres is gonna be dancing around the outside, entering the pocket, landing strikes more or less at will. Stay out of trouble, stay out of getting tied up and taken to the ground. I think Dern seems pretty sub or bust to me. I'm not going to get there whatsoever. I won't be shocked if the first person to finish Tecia Torres is Dern, and plus 250 by sub is how I would go about it. But no, I think more often than not, Tecia Torres wins by decision, which is at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. Torres by decision plus 130. Which I don't know.
You're improving at 30 points on the line. She's not going to win any other way. If she wins, okay.
People said that.
Any other way but decision.
People said that, and then she took on Sam Page, and all of a sudden, I know. Mackenzie Dern is super, super durable. We've seen that time and time again. She's got the heart of a lion. Takedowns are just a complete mess, and I don't know if they're getting all that much better. It's just a tough. Like, she's improving. It's just not there. If she was able to like really get like a solid double leg takedown game or even chain wrestling up against the fence, like, she'd be a big problem. But I don't know if we're ever gonna get there. All right, moving on down, we got Vinc from Hell Pichel taking on Mark Madsen. Vinc Pichel minus 125 favorite. Mark Madsen could be had for plus 105. This line opened to like minus 150, minus 160, and people like themselves some Mark Madsen. I'm kind of confused by that, to be perfectly honest. Went back, watched Madsen's most recent fights, watched him against Austin Hubbard. He was able to get the takedowns. Clay Guida was the real eye-opener, though. Clay Guida was able to... It's like a Greco-Roman style wrestling. I mean, he's a silver medalist, Mark Madsen, at the Olympics. Like, he's got great wrestling chops. The guy's built to a T. He's super, super jacked, super, super strong for about 6 to 7 minutes. And even against Clay Guida, Guida was able to like break his hands apart early on, and that leg, Mark Madsen just leaves his leg just hanging out there for leg kicks. I've been, I'm 9-0 in Vinc Pichel picks. There's it 9 wins. I believe I'm 9-0 at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You got his
7,
losses right
8,
too, though.
9. That's
the main thing. You got every single one of his.
I went back. I watched him versus Gregor Gillespie. He was doing fine. Gregor Gillespie is just an absolute. He's like a wombat, man. Like, that guy, just the amount of energy, the speed, the chaining of all of the takedowns together, the pace that he set. I can't see Mark Madsen doing that, and that took about 7.5 minutes. And then the Rustam Khamzat fight, we're going back to 2012, because I'm going, who are the wrestlers that really, that gave my boy Vinc some problems here? The Rustam Khamzat fight, there was some like belly-to-belly suplexes and stuff, similar type of techniques that Madsen has. Here's the thing. I think round 1 is going to be a bit dicey. I already have a little bit of money on Vinc Pichel. I found a minus 122. I found a minus 127. It's minus 125 at DraftKings Sportsbook. This line keeps falling all week. I'm running out of sportsbooks, so I'm struggling to get what I want in on this. But I think, and I crept into it on Twitter, in Vinc Pichel's messages, or like on Twitter, I told him to chop the leg. I told him,
everybody knows
I told him to chop the leg, and that that it was just sitting there begging to, and he liked the tweet. I don't know, and then he liked the tweet about the Pichel whisperer. So maybe Vinc is aware of me. I don't know, but either way, I think Vinc Pichel wins. I've got him on the money line already. I'm going to be adding a little bit more because, the rest of Canada outside of Ontario, our betting situation is in shambles. And I took him Pichel round 3 plus 1,600. I think that fight for Mark Madsen against Clay Guida is really, like, the writing was on the wall. It's like, that was a super, super close, dicey striking exchanges between the two of them. Clay kind of does his thing where he throws strikes, but like he doesn't put any real purpose behind them. Throws a lot of volume. Most of them really don't exactly land. But yeah, the fact that he wasn't really shooting for takedowns in that spot is an eye opener for me. And the fact that, that leg, Vince was like 27 of 29 against Austin Hubbard on his leg kicks. Like, he's going to target that leg, and it is just sitting there waiting to get chewed. I'm hoping Vinc Pichel withstands. I'm going to be looking to add something live because I think round one could be dicey. I think he gets taken down a couple times in round one. You get a better number in round two. I just don't have faith that Madsen can keep from hell down for extended periods of time, and that's just going to tire him out even more. Pichel round 3, TKO is my official pick. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm largely on the exact same page as you. I got Vinc Pichel pre-fight. Well, whatever you told me, you're the Vinc Pichel whisperer. What does it matter what I think? I'm the same.
I'm due for regression. I mean,
yeah,
going 10-0
it always
happens.
Something. It always happens eventually, but this is going to be the 10-0, I think. I just, when I did the tape study myself, it's all very much screams the same stuff, right? I almost feel like I was sold a bad bill of goods on Mark Madsen, right? He's the Olympian, he's a silver medalist, he's a great athlete, he's going to do all these great things. They said his style was awesome for it. His amateur run looks pretty good. He's competing in grappling tournaments. His grappling is getting ever improving. And then he shows up to the UFC Performance Institute in Las Vegas, and they put him through like a set of rigorous athletic tests. And they said he was maximized in every category, was the best athlete, pure athlete they had seen come into the facility. And it was new. I was like, oh man, this guy's the goods. We all bet him against Danilo Belluardo. It's one single takedown, smashes him. Perfect. They give you like a minus 240 line against Austin Hubbard. We're all in on it. That was the eye opener, dude. Sure, he gets the 8 takedowns, but everything he does is just like explosive. Big takedowns, big slam, get a hold of the guy and just chuck him to the ground. Zero top control. He has an inability to hold the guys down. And every time they get back up and he takes them for another ride, he's just exerting energy. Wins the first round against Hubbard, but he's quickly running on fumes. Second round, he gassed. But he manages to get a few more takedowns and stall at the clock a little bit. Now in the third round against Austin Hubbard, whom he's a more than 2-1 favorite over, who's a young guy that has a long history of having bad takedown defense. The guy just outlasts him and kind of beats him up that third round. He survives, he wins, but he was 36 years old at the time, so 35 years old at the time, I think. So I at that point, it was like, I don't really see what the upside is other than sick wrestling. So you match him up against Clay Guida, because Clay's older as well, and Clay's known for his wrestling as well. He shot 1 takedown, Paul. The guy's entire game is wrestling. His last fight, he shot 12 of them. He shot 1 single takedown against Clay Guida. Now, why is that? Clay Guida is not a former Olympian. Clay Guida is not even a former D1 All-American, right? He guy can wrestle, but because he knew wrestling was going to exhaust him, so he goes in with a completely different game plan of just jabbing in leg kicks. He just jabbed in leg kick. Pretty much all he did. It was 1 single shot at a time. No combination work, right? Does land a decent enough, but just nothing real of substance. He had a 15-minute striking battle with Clay Guida in which he edged out a competitive split decision. Like, that just looks awful for us where I'm standing. The thing with Vinc Pichel is he's strong. He got a nasty jab himself. The outside low kick, like you mentioned, not only is Mark Madsen susceptible to the leg kick, is that Vinc Pichel's got a hell of a leg kick. And everything he does is create chaos so that you need to fight this man back and exert energy. And the more you exert energy, the more tired you get. The more tired you get, he takes over. When he did it against Jim Miller, it was like, Jim Miller's got Lyme disease and is almost 40, right? Then he does it against Austin Hubbard, who's a young kid who trains at elevation. It's like he breaks these guys, and Mark seems like he may be susceptible to getting broken. There's a reason why he is a silver medalist, Paul, because he did not win. So it's from El Pichel, baby. Let's get it done.
I think he gets the job done here. Round 1, I think, is going to be a little bit interesting. Like, Vince got taken down.
Live bet.
Vince got taken
live
down
bet after the first.
Vince got taken down 4 times by Austin Hubbard, but when I was rewatching that, it's like those takedowns were pretty meaningless in the grand scope of the fight. Like, he was able to get him down, but Vince was like fighting his way back up pretty much immediately every single time. Mark doesn't have, as you were talking about, Mark doesn't have the greatest top game. He's not able to really hold people there. And as Vince fights his way back to his feet every single time, that's just going to zap him. Yeah. Vince maybe by decision, but I'm hoping round 3 because 16-1 is awfully spicy. All right, we got Ian Garry taking on Darian Weeks, minus 365 Garry, plus 280 Weeks. What do you think about this one?
I'm cowarding on this one. A few days ago, I was convinced that I should bet the underdog. I mean, the prices just seems a little bit absurd, no? There's a couple things to take in consideration. One, Ian Garry was too big of a favorite in his debut against Jordan Williams and doesn't end up looking all that good despite getting a first-round knockout. Little spotty, going to be some couple holes in his game. Meanwhile, Darian Weeks, there's stuff to like about this guy. You can point out that he did this and that wrong against Brian Barberena. I get it, but he took that fight on short notice against like a savvy veteran of the game. And it's fought at the kind of pace that would tire a guy out. Now he's got a full training camp. Weight cut should be a lot easier. Yeah, he's going to be live. He's going to be live probably more than the odds would suggest. So why not just take that flyer shot? But I'm thinking it's going to come down to striking, and I'm not sure that he's going to have enough striking to beat Ian Garry over 15. Like, Ian Garry wasn't looking good against Jordan Williams, but I think at 24 years old, he's probably one of these kids that, like a Paddy Pimblett, like they can take a punch and they'll just keep coming. You really got to finish them, or they just get that youth. His striking does look a decent amount better than Weeks. Weeks does have some pro boxing experience, but in the Barberena fight, I think he abandoned his striking because he wasn't comfortable with it and just tried to over wrestle. He does have a little bit of a high school wrestling background. I think he maybe like a state placer or a qualifier. But beyond that, I don't know in a 15-minute battle if he's going to come out victorious. I think Garry probably edges him the longer the fight goes because due to the striking. But here's the problem with a guy like Ian Garry, right? He comes out of Cage Warriors, which is a phenomenal promotion, features some of the best European talent, but oftentimes the guys that come over have difficulty making the transition right away. You see a ton of Cage Warriors champions come over, fan it almost immediately. They want to compare him to a Conor McGregor because he's a former SBG Ireland guy. I think he got kicked out of SBG Ireland. He's with Sanford MMA now. Better switch for you, kid. Don't worry about that one. But they want to compare him to a McGregor. They want to compare him to a Paddy Pimblett. They want to compare him to one of these good Cage Warrior prospects. Here's the difference, right? When Paddy was 23 years old, 24 years old, he was losing as a considerable favorite to Nad Narimani, right? He got upset by Soren Back, right, in his own backyard. He's losing fights that are now going to make him a better fighter. Conor McGregor comes over to the UFC with some losses. These losses help make him a better fighter. Ian Garry hasn't faced any of those setbacks, that adversity. I don't think he's not a Chimaev. He's not one of these guys that you have faith that maybe just be able to go undefeated. Like at some point he's going to run into a roadblock. But I think I'm over forcing my hand by thinking Darian Weeks is that guy. We talk about it all the time. I want to fade this guy. But because you really want to fade this guy, does it make his opponent the guy to fade him against? Or are you overreaching on it? And I feel like I might be. I don't have any underdogs to this point. I feel like Weeks has got a shot, but I'm gonna cower it up a little bit here and just stick with the big favorite on Ian Garry.
I was not impressed by rewatching the Garry versus, or sorry, the the Weeks versus Barberena fight. I thought his footwork looks like an absolute mess. Give him a little bit of a pass. The cardio did not look great, but the guy took the fight on 4 days' notice, as you mentioned. So you kind of give him a bit of a pass there. Brian Barberena is super easy to take down. That is the path to victory for pretty much anybody these days. I mean, we're, 2 weeks removed from talking about Matt Brown having a wrestling advantage, which he did utilize in a very, very close fight. Lose the very, very close fight. But I wasn't overly impressed by what Weeks was able to do with his wrestling. I didn't love Ian Garry's debut whatsoever. He does have precision and power. But rewatching that Garry versus Williams fight, the one big takeaway I had was, and then counterbalancing it with watching Weeks versus Barberena, was Jordan Williams is a way better striker than Darian Weeks is at this point in his career. I think this is a handpicked opponent. He's a good-looking young guy with a beautiful, media savvy, media friendly. I think she's done Cage Warriors promotion and stuff like that. New wife. This guy's a guy that they want to there's a reason why he's the featured prelim on a big card like this. They want this to be, their next Conor McGregor. They're trying to put him in featured bouts where he's going to look good. And I think they found the guy, Darian Weeks, who I don't think it's going to be very remotely competitive on the feet. I'm sure Garry's putting in work at the gym, working on that takedown defense. He's going to have a massive sizes. That's the other thing is that Darian Weeks against Barberena, looking at like Barberena used to fight at 155 pounds. Barberena hasn't ever really been a large welterweight. And Darian Weeks looked pretty undersized against him. I think he's probably more likely a big lightweight than he is a decent sized welterweight. So size should be all on Garry's side. I'm sure all he's doing is sprawl training. And if this fight takes place on the feet, as we probably expect it will, I think Garry knocks him out. He's like plus 110 at DraftKings Sportsbook for the knockout. I'm probably going to get there by the end of the week here because I think it's a setup fight. I didn't love what I saw from him in his debut. He did show that that he had a decent chin. He was able to stay in there tough when he was getting hit, and he does have fight-ending power and precision. And, they're working on the rest of it. I expect them to roll here. Somewhere down the line, maybe they won't take their time. They put him up against someone with a decent, or a really good chin and some good wrestling. Garry may be in trouble, but this isn't the spot for me.
2 titles are up for grabs at the stacked UFC 273 fight card. Join the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the UFC. New customers can bet $5 on any fighter and get $100 in free bets, win or lose, guaranteed. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the excitement. Everyone can play for their share of millions in prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy MMA contests. Draft your lineup of fighters while staying under the salary cap and rack up points for strikes, takedowns, and more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP. Throw down $5 on UFC 273 and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code DOP this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. 21 plus, restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
We got Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Marcin Tybura, minus 155 Rozenstruik, plus 135 Tybura. It was only a couple weeks ago where we saw Volkov rolling in here and Tom Aspinall absolutely just obliterating him in round 1. And watching Tybura versus Volkov, because that was Volkov's most previous fight at that point, I thought Marcin looked okay and was able to hang in those spots. And then now I'm kind of thinking, you know what? Volkov just may be well over the hill. Jairzinho's been super, super tough. He hasn't taken on too many grapplers. Not many guys have been able to take him down consistently and hold him down. But I feel like Jairzinho is about to send Tybura on a canvas snap here. Do you have a hot take on this one? Because I'm considering Jairzinho Rozenstruik by knockout.
Yeah, I kind of almost got it closer to 50-50 because it's the tale of 2 fights, right? Either Tybura just presses him up against the cage and fishes for takedowns, may or may not get them, doesn't matter. It'll be up against the cage with Tybura initiated in the clinch, then Tybura is going to win it. Or he's getting slapped. Jairzinho is going to touch him up here, and this thing is over. Tybura is a larger man. He does have the wrestling advantage, I would say. And beyond that, the Volkov fight, he went 0 for 14 on takedowns. Not a good look, but he was committed. He was committed to shooting the takedowns at all costs, and he had a lot of success of holding Volkov up against the cage. I think he could do the same thing with Jairzinho, whose biggest flaw has always been he don't let his hands go. Frankie Murner, at least let his hands go. Derek Lewis, let his hands go. Jairzinho don't. All of his losses are pretty much him just staring at the guys. People want to talk about the Overing fight, oh, look what he can do. Dude waited until there was 20 seconds left in a 5-round fight. Why do you do it?
He was about to lose.
He was definitely going to lose. And it was debatable that it was an early stoppage because Overeem did get back up.
His lip was falling off of his face. I mean, I was on Overeem there. That was painful, but the man's lip is falling off of his face. It's just what am I supposed to do? Tell the ref to be like, just hold on for 10 seconds. Let's just see if that the lip can just like fall on the canvas.
That's fair. It's 4:56 of the round. You could have at least just blinked a couple times and been like, am I seeing that right? Okay, stop it. Like, regardless, that was just one example. Because if you look at the Junior Dos Santos fight, he loses the first round, doesn't throw anything, does win in the second. The Ciryl Gane fight, he stared at Ciryl for 5 full rounds. He never tried to engage him. He didn't try to do anything. The Curtis Blaydes fight, a little bit trickier. I guess like he's worried about the takedown, and inevitably he does get taken down. But he's like a deer staring in the headlights a lot of the time. So even though he has kill shot power, if he's not willing to throw it and he's spending most of the fight with his back pressed up against the cage, well, it could be a bit of a problem. He's also 242 pounds. And if you look at anything he's got online right now, he looks like he's going to come into this fight a little bit lower. He's been spending a lot of time on cardio. He's been spending a lot of time on other things. I think he'll have the speed advantage. I think he's probably going to use that speed advantage to punch Marcin Tybura square in the face and knock him out. But again, if it goes the other way and Marcin Tybura is able to get a hold of him and lean on him, it'd be a problem. So I always say, like, the toughest fights to cap are women's MMA and middling heavyweights. And quite honestly, that's what we have here. And then I think we're supposed to talk about women's MMA right after this. Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we are too.
Oh, yeah. Your baby's up next.
So this is the point of the card where I might struggle a little bit and then get a little shit in the apple pie. But the pick is Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I think he'll knock him out. I just hope I'm not staring at the screen yelling into the second round, into the third round. Like, just get it over with, quick and simple, because Tybura is going to fight like one of them boring game plans, but is effective at securing a victory.
And you may be in a bad mood coming into that fight because Raquel Pennington takes on your baby, Aspen Ladd. Raquel Pennington, a minus 190 favorite. Aspen Ladd can be had for plus 160 at DraftKings Sportsbook. This fight is at 135 pounds. That is...
Is it? I'll believe that on Friday.
Yeah, is it? Because every website I look at, it's got it at 130. And like, this is, I mean, in terms of my mentality about how this fight plays out, I mean, one thing is, like, if you're going to bet Aspen Ladd, you might as well just set your money on fire if you don't wait to see what the weigh-ins look like first. Because this girl at 135 pounds, it's been like, even when she's made it, she's looked like she was going to die. Legitimately, like, looked like she was going to die on the scales. Goes out against Germaine de Randamie, gets absolutely flatlined in the first round. So if she's coming down to 135 pounds, you got to be paying attention to these weigh-ins. If it is at 135, and, you know, I'm on UFCstats.com, I'm on Tapology.com, everyone's got it as a bantamweight fight here. I'm interested in the under 2.5 rounds, plus 240. One, we got Raquel Pennington. She's got like the bulldog choke. Maybe she just puts it on Aspen Ladd too much. Two, maybe Rocky's a little bit over the hill. Aspen Ladd, if she has a good weight cut, is able to take this fight to the ground, smash away. She's very, very ferocious when she gets to top position. I think this, you know, it's over 2.5 rounds is juiced up to minus 330, the under plus 240. It's like, I'm watching these weigh-ins and I may have a little sprinkle on the under in this, in the hopes that, you know, if Aspen Ladd looks horrible, it's just like, well, I don't know if she can fight 15 minutes after a bad cut, because what we've seen before is that no, she falls off, like, she falls completely off of a cliff if the weight cut's bad. And like, it's kind of 50-50 if the weight cut is going to be bad. Everyone makes weight and everything seems okay. I think the value side would be Aspen Ladd for me, but more interested in watching the weigh-ins get completely out of control and potentially betting a women's MMA under, which always sounds really crazy. But that's where I'm at with this one. What about you?
Yeah, it does sound a little bit crazy, but all the same, this is going to be my first underdog pick of the card, Aspen Ladd. Yeah, she's my baby, but I think I'm going to pick her for a little bit more than just that. You gotta know when she's got a chance, and I think she would have a chance here. Problem is that nothing I can do about it pre-fight. Well, my book's got me on soft limits anyways until like day before. But regardless, like you said, you can't bet it until you actually get to the weigh-ins. In her case, she's going to make 135. I don't know. But beyond that, Raquel Pennington's last fight against Macy Chiasson was at 145. And Aspen Ladd's last fight against Dumont 145. Why not just make it a catchweight at 140? Why not just make it at 145? No. They want to see if Aspen Ladd can make 135. Why? Because at 35, maybe she's a contender. Champion? No. Maybe a contender. At 45, there's no future for her there. So this is a big test for her. She needs to have 2 fights. One of them is going to be against the scale. She's got to make 136. And the next one is going to be a tough enough fight in Raquel Pennington. I like to write Raquel Pennington off, although they match her up super soft. And I will admit, her last fight against Chiasson is the best I've seen her look in a long time. Like, normally she just tries to lean on you against the cage. Like, fights the way Marcin Tybura is probably going to try to fight, which is, if I can take you down, great. If not, it doesn't matter. Clinch battle up against the cage, muscle you up, looks better for the judges if I'm the one initiating it. Like, it's just not my style of fighting. But again, the way that they match her up, it's fairly low level. I don't think she'll get away with it this time around. Of course, she fought Amanda Nunes, loses. No shame in that. The one interesting mark there is going into the 5th round, after the 4th, going into the 5th, sitting on her stool, telling her corner, I'm done. I don't want to fight anymore. Mentally just breaks right then and there. Her run after that, she gets beat by Jermaine Durandamy, looks super lethargic, man, like flat-footed, landed 24 significant strikes. You give her a pass. The Irene Aldana fight, she wins uneventful for the most part, split decision, not a great performance. But then Holly Holm out-grapples her. Doesn't out-strike her. Holly Holm goes out there and straight out-grapples her. But then she gets a 42-year-old gym teacher in Marion Renault. And then she goes out and gets a European Muay Thai champion in Penny Khamzat, who definitely has grappling problems. And then she gets Macy Chiasson, who's definitely got cardio issues and, maybe grappling problems as well. She's looking against that level. But against Aspen Ladd, I think she gives up a takedown. Why? She gave up 1 takedown to Chiasson, 1 takedown to Penny Khamzat, 2 takedowns to Marion Renault. She's been taken down by her last 3 opponents, and they're not particularly good opponents. Aspen Ladd gets on top of her. It's ground and pound city. She's just going to smash her up from top. Does she finish her? I don't think so, but she's going to win the round that way. If it doesn't hit the ground and it stays standing, probably slight advantage to Raquel Pennington, but the volume's not big enough that she's going to run away with it. And, well, what about the power? I mean, Aspen Ladd, she's been clipped a few times here and there. Raquel Pennington's knocked out 1 opponent in her entire professional career. It was her pro debut. It was 10 years ago, and it was Randy Couture's ex-wife, Kim. She's not knocking her, right? She doesn't have traditional power. She got a bulldog choke. She's got some pace and some aggression. If she was the underdog, I would be considering her. The facts are that she's not. It's Aspen Ladd. Got to take that plus money. So dog number 1. Actually, that's a lie. We have 2 dogs on the card. The other one's Tecia Torres. So women's MMA, Paul, I'm taking Pot Man's theory. I'm rolling with the underdogs.
All right, we got Mike Malott taking on Mickey Gall. Mike Malott is a minus 195 favorite. Mickey Gall can be had for plus 165. I remember Mike Malott from way back in the he was on Substance Cage Combat too, right. Which I was live at the whatever small arena in in North York or wherever the hell we were watching that. And I remember back in the day when we worked at Fight Network, like this was like the big prospect that everyone was on the lookout for coming out of the Toronto area. Then 2017, he loses to Hakeem Dawodu in 2017. 2014. Sorry, for whatever reason, nothing would load up on my computer there. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing. You probably know him a hell of a lot better than me. I watched his most recent Contender Series fight where he's able to, the guy that he was taking on, it's like he never seen a guillotine before. He just kind of let him.
21 years old.
Yeah, that kid just did it. He just latched onto his neck and just took it. But this guy was Mike Malott was a striker, and then now he's down at Team Alpha Male. Obviously, he's fallen in love with the grappling. What do you expect from Mike Malott coming out here against Mickey Gall? Significant favorite for his UFC debut.
Yeah. So on one hand, just like you mentioned, they kept saying he's the next Georges St. Pierre, not because he could wrestle, but because he was going to be the next big star out of Canada. And he had a well-rounded skill set, good kickboxing. Wrestling was good for Canadian level. Jiu-jitsu was pretty good. He submitted Michael Imperato in a second pro fight, and nobody would fight him. So we got him a fight at Substance Cage Combat. He beat Alan Wilson, who's since passed on to the other life. Not from anything Mike Malott did to him, but God rest Alan Wilson's soul. And it just looked like Sky was going to be the limit for him, right? Here's the problem. All 4 of those guys finished him in the first round. Hadn't really been tested. The Hakeem Dawodu fight, World Series of Fighting, I think he's going to roll up Hakeem because I'm very familiar with Dawodu, and Dawodu's he's a Canadian Muay Thai champion, like excellent Muay Thai fighter. But Mike Malott's just going to take him to the ground, put a beating on him, put a pace on him, probably submit him. First round starts, takes him down. It's a World Series of Fighting Canada show. Anyways, Malott scores first round takedown. Top control, good, not great. Creates a little bit of space. Dawodu gets back up. He tries to get him down a second time. Dawodu stuffs it. Boom. Hits him, knocks him out. Clean. Didn't see it coming. Of course, I'd never really seen Mike Malott punched in the face before. So you give him a pass because it's mean Hakeem Dawodu, but he takes a full year off after that loss. Moves to Team Alpha Male and says, you know what, if I want to pursue MMA, I want to pursue to the highest ability, got to go to Team Alpha Male, right? At the time, they had TJ Dillashaw. At the time, they had Garbrandt and Faber, and the gym was just like, it was really hot at that particular time. So he moves down to Sacramento, and they book him a fight with Thomas Dieng, right? Bellator 142. First round, Mike Malott looks like $1 million, dude. 10-8 round. He absolutely kicks the crap out of Thomas Dieng. Second round, he's gassed. He is gassed out in the second round. Thomas Dieng wins. Thomas Dieng wins the third, and Mike Malott holds on because of the 10-8 first round. It's ruled a draw. That's the only time in his career he's been beyond the first round, and he's flat gassed out. But it's a year after the Hakeem Dawodu knockout, and he had just moved camps, so you don't really know. But after that Dieng fight, he takes almost 2 years off and then knocks out Craig Shintani, 36 seconds. Craig Shintani complains that it was an eye poke that set up the punch. All the same, 36 seconds, he takes him out. Solomon Renfro is a bum. This is 3 years later after the Craig Shintani fight because he has neck issues. It creates like whiplash, which creates vertigo, so his balance is all off-centered. So he takes 3 years off. He's officially fought for 36 seconds over like a 5-year span of time. And then he fights Solomon Renfro, and he gets rocked early in the first round against Renfro. He gets clipped with a shot. He's wobbly. He takes Renfro down, submits him. Renfro's a bum. He's a physical specimen, but he's a bum. So his jiu-jitsu bails him out there. Then he draws a 21-year-old kid. Well, he's one of the lead coaches at Team Alpha Male. Like, what he sees so many of these 21-year-old kids. They come to the gym all the time. Yeah, I got a thing. I like to show them all. Here it is. Guillotine chokes him right. They're all so fast in the first round that for me to believe that he can fight a second and third round, purely assumption. Seen him do it one time, didn't go well. Since then, so few and far between. So we got to go narrative here. He's a 2-1 favorite. I'm actually glad my bookie soft limited me because I hit the line as soon as it came out. Well, not as soon as it came out. I saw it at minus 185 a lot. But I hit it, and then I got thinking about it afterwards, like seriously thinking about it. I was like, this is not necessarily a great spot because the thing with Gall now is that he's got a lot of experience. He's not necessarily somebody that I think you can just finish in the first round. He's a BJJ black belt, so his jiu-jitsu is good enough that Malott's main weapon should be taken off the table. Malott's a good striker. He's got fast hands, but you've seen him get knocked out by Dawodu. You've seen him get clipped by Dieng. You've seen him get clipped by Solomon Renfro. His chin might not be all that good. He's going to try to force this into a wrestling battle, make it a jiu-jitsu match. Can he take down Mickey Gall and hold him down and out-grapple him? Mike Perry did, so I'm going to be inclined to say yes. Yes, he probably could. But I know Mike Perry can fight 2 and 3 rounds because he's a junkyard dog, right? Whereas Malott, he might be a bit of a finesse guy, and if he struggles in that second and third round, Mickey's live. Mickey's at Sanford MMA now as well. You know, Gilbert Burns is on the card. Ian Gary's on the card. There's a lot of guys on the card. Usman's in camp with them all. Like, he's going to probably come in good shape. He's 30 years old now. His jiu-jitsu should be enough to keep him live. And his stand-up, he spent like 2 years working with Joe Schilling. It's not bad. He did outstrike Mike Perry in the first round before he tired out. And I suppose his fight with Jordan Williams, you know, same thing. He shows off some power in that fight, drops him twice. You can't completely rule out the fact that he might just clip Malott and then take advantage of it from there or extend him into the later rounds and take over. So for that reason, I shouldn't have pre-bet it. Again, soft limit, whatever. But I think Gall could be a live underdog. My pick, Canada, Malott, my guy. We wish each other happy birthday. You know, I got to ride or die on this one. A ride or die on this one might cost me money. So don't just blindly tail me on this one, perhaps.
Yeah, Canadian chalk hasn't been too kind for the last few years.
Canadian dogs always come through. Malcolm Gordon is seriously costing me some money, but I'm always happy to see him win. But Canadian chalk, Marc-Andre Barrios, stuff like that, no.
Yeah, you're right, dog, because like Jasmine Jezadovicius, who I can't pronounce her name still to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched her fight actually with Kate Hansen the other day. Actually, literally earlier today. But we'll get to that fight eventually. We got Aleksei, the boa constrictor Oleinik, taking on Vanderaa. This was supposed to be Aleksei versus Ilir Latifi. And the MMA gods smiled down on me because I didn't want to pick between my heroes. I didn't want to see my heroes fight. Hopefully that fight never happens at this point. This is a much more interesting fight from a lot of angles, instead of, Latifi being able to take down Oleinik, Latifi not having a neck, and just hanging out in guard for 15 minutes, getting a really ugly decision that everyone was like, why didn't I just go and run a few errands while this fight was going on? This one's a little bit more interesting. It's basically a straight pick 'em. DraftKings Sportsbook has it -115 Oleinik, -105 Vanderaa. Vanderaa's takedown defense is very, very spotty. Now, some people, I ran a little poll on Twitter where I wrote, who has the worst takedown defense in the heavyweight division? Option A was Vanderaa. Option B was C results. It looked horrible in both of the fights that it's been tested. I know he's like one of the Dan Henderson guys, but it's I don't know who he's wrestling with, because I went back, watched the Arlovski fight, very, very close, nip and tuck. It's a classic Arlovski fight where it's it's two guys, volume isn't exactly over the top because Andre never lets the fight get all that crazy, and it's very, very flip a coin type of situation. Alexander Romanov is an excellent wrestler. Don't get me wrong whatsoever. But as soon as he grabbed a hold of him, he was able to pull him to the ground. Went back and watched the Spivak fight. And anytime Sergey Spivak grabbed a hold of him, he was able to peel him to the ground and had next to no trouble just pounding away on top of him, especially in round 2, where it was just no mas, fight over. I think the old man Oleinik's got another one in the tank, Cody. I bet him at +100 because someone was offering +100 on my hero here. I think the old man is going to be able to get some takedowns, and I think he's going to be able to potentially find the scarfold or whatever the hell he wants to do. He was able to take down Spivak in one situation. Round 1, he was able to take him down ever so briefly. And was able to get into his classic position. It was just way too late in round 1. And then round 2, it always gets dicey with him. His cardio is pretty horrible. So Vanderaa is going to have a cardio advantage, don't get me wrong. But I think the ability to get the fight to the ground is going to be there for old man Oleinik. And yeah, the Spivak fight round 2, he's pulling guard and stuff. It wasn't great. But you look at the stats of that fight, it wasn't all that bad for old man Oleinik. I get really worried about Oleinik anytime he goes into a fight. But he's taking on a heavyweight who doesn't exactly have fight-ending power in his hands. A guy who's not a great grappler from what we've seen on tape. Boa constrictor rolls once again, and then please retire because my heart can't handle it.
Yeah, I gotta go the other way on this one. Sorry, old boy. I think Vanderaa would be sneaky good in this spot. And I know you can talk about all these recent Aleksei Oleinik fights, but it comes down to a little one that you and I debated a long time ago, Danny Omalanchuk, where you said he'd get all of his spots, and he did. And once he didn't submit him in that first round, he's completely gassed. And that's been the story of his career. He either submits you pretty early, catches you with the old-timey move, or his gas tank is just no good. His striking is not good enough to outstrike someone for a prolonged period. Yeah, he actually did beat Fabricio Verdun for 2 rounds, but again, he gassed out hard in that 3rd round, as he usually tends to do. At this point, he's just, too small, too old. His body's just shot to bits. His MCLs, his meniscus, everything is just torn up. He's just like one of these tough Russian Spetsnaz. He refuses to quit, and he keeps coming, but I just think he's seen better days. Interesting thing here is that Vanderaa is actually a BJJ black belt. I know. I know, but he actually is. I know.
Not what it looks like.
Paul, trust me, I know. But
I'm stunned.
It's a different type
that.
of. It's a different type of grappling because I think he's probably used to doing gi work and having grips and holding guys and looking for submission stuff. He has been submitted twice in his career, but they were years ago against decent enough opposition. It's the guys he fights now take him down and they smash him with ground and pound. Spivak takes him down 3 times and just keeps smashing him with the ground and pound. Romanov takes him down 5 times and keeps smashing him with the ground and pound. That's Oleinik's problem, is that he's not likely going to get more than 1, maybe 2 takedowns. He's not chain wrestling. He's not scoring 3 or 5 takedowns. He's not putting on a pace like Romanov. And he certainly does not have the ground and pound of either guy. He doesn't have the wrestling or the ground and pound of either guy. So he could have some success early by wading in, throwing a couple overhand rights, grabbing a hold of him, trying to peel him to the ground, going for the scarf hold, going for the Ezekiel, going for all of his old-timey moves. But in the second and third round, if he struggles to get that takedown, Jared Vanderaa is going to start to overwhelm him. Vandera's got a lot of faults, but one of them's not pace. I mean, the guy can throw over 100 significant strikes. He's just one of these shitty volume heavyweights, like a Parker Porter, right? He can throw volume. He can fight 3 rounds. He's just not particularly great. The thing is that he'll keep going. And I think that's going to be the key difference here, is that Oleinik might start out well for the first 3 minutes like he did against Spivak. But once he tires, maybe he's pulling guard. He's ending up on bottom, trying for the old stuff. And you got to train Ezekiel choke defense. It's so rare that it's going to come up. How is he even hitting these moves? Nobody knows. But sure to God, if you're fighting the guy, you would train it a little bit. And I think after the first round, you'll start to see a noticeable trend in Jared Vandera's favor. And even Spivak and Romanov both need to take him deeper into the second round and overwhelm him. Oleinik, you would need to get it done in the first round really fast. Don't necessarily see it coming. Now, here's the other issue for Aleksei Oleinik. Dude used to fight at 185 pounds back in the day. Lost to Chael Sonnen and Bodog, right? Bodog fights. Moved up to 205, fans out of Bellator, not overly all that big. And then comes to the UFC and just has he's a legend. He's a legend. He's an OG legend. Put him in the Hall of Fame. But he's largely been competing with just way too high a weight class. His last fight against Sergey Spivak, he came in at 228 pounds. The fight before that with Daukaus, he tried coming in at 240, but it didn't work. And the fight before that with Derek Lewis, he comes in at 227. He is largely undersized, taking on guys that weigh 265, not in Daukaus' case. But Spivak's getting bigger. Lewis is a big guy. Vanderaa cuts to 265 pounds. He's going to have a 50-pound weight advantage over Oleinik. And yes, it is going to play dividends the longer the fight goes. So it just like Korean Zombie could knock out Alexander Volkanovski, probably needs to do it early. Oleinik could catch him, probably could catch him with a submission early. I just don't think it's going to go there long run. So Vanderaa, and I'm also going to keep an eye on the open market, because the second it hits the ground, you'll see plus money on Vanderaa on the book, 100%, because the assumption is he's going to get submitted here. But if he doesn't get submitted and he gets back up and a second round starts, he'd be sitting good. So I got Jared Vanderaa. I got Jared Vanderaa after the first round. And I would like to say Vanderaa by TKO. But of course with Aleksei Oleinik, it has to be the doctor, or his corner's not going to stop it. He's not going to stop it. Somebody who's responsible needs to step in and stop it, because the guy will fight to the death. So when you bet unders on him, you got to be aware that he's fighting to the death.
All right, shoey bet.
It's on. It is on.
I have to do seltzers now instead of beers.
Oh, you on keto? You keto, Paul?
No.
You're jealous. You've seen Pokey Rob on Twitter, and now you got to step up your keto game. Eh?
I discovered that the entire time that you've known me, my entire life, I've made fun of all of these hipsters with their gluten-free diets and stuff like that. And it's how I had the issue with I had the rash on my forehead.
Are you celiac?
I'm celiac.
Wow.
I discovered that while you were on a beautiful beach in Cuba. I've been discovering that I can't actually. It's so funny. It's I used to think I was oh, maybe it's peanut butter, because I was having peanut butter toast. And it's just there were so many things that would be oh, maybe I'm allergic to this. Maybe I'm allergic to that. No, it was the bread.
Never thought of
the entire time. All of my
silent killer.
All of these issues that I've had, my hands were swollen up and stuff like that. I had these different. Look, I don't need to go into all of this stuff. But long story short, I'm one of those.
Make a lot of sense,
I'm one of those geeky, millennials that I've been making fun of. Oh, gluten. Oh, highfalutin, no gluten. Oh, yeah. Well, The world works in mysterious. Yeah, karma is hitting me like a bee. It is what it is. But yeah, seltzers for the kids
versus
for now
a good
on.
old-fashioned Canadian brewed beer.
All right. Shoey's on the house for next week. Hopefully not for me. Hopefully for you. All right. We got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Josh Fremd. Fluffy is minus 190. Fremd can be had for plus 160. What's your take here?
Yeah, well, if there was a cranberry sauce fight on the card, I think this, maybe not. We might have a cranberry saucer coming up in a moment. But yeah, it's hard to get super excited about this one either way. I think Hernandez should be the favorite just because we've seen more of him, of what he can offer. Submits Rodolfo Vieira. I think we can all agree that one's more of a fatigue thing. But what I liked is that he was in some bad spots against one hell of a nasty grappler, the black belt collector. And he's in some bad spots, and he perseveres. He defends. He gets back up. He spent some time at Team Alpha Male. He spent some time down in Sacramento. Striking looks okay. Seems to have some good enough pop. You saw him on the Contender Series, obviously. He knocks out Jordan Wright 40 seconds. Like, he can crack. He's got some okay hands. He can wrestle a little bit. He can grapple a little bit. I just don't like the inactivity. And he's, shitting a few pies. The Marcus Perez fight, I didn't understand what he was doing. The Kevin Holland fight, not that he shit my pie that night, I bet against him, but he got killed in 39 seconds. And then after the Rodolfo Vieira fight, he pulls out of the Puanelio Soriano fight with a hand injury. So they rebook him real soft against Dustin Stolfus, and he pulls out. And then they booked him against Albert Duraev. Duraev pulls out. Just Duplessis comes in. Duplessis gets rescheduled against Gastelum. So Frem comes in. There's a lot of there's just too much unknown. He's been off for a year. He seems basic enough in any one area. And Josh Frem, if I'm looking to just randomly take an underdog, I'm kind of leaning towards this guy's got a shot. He actually did wrestle a little bit collegiately. Currently trains out of Factory X Muay Thai, does have good wrestling, but you see he likes to work his striking a lot better. The guy had a decent enough amateur career and a pretty good pro career. Signs with LFA, wins his first 3 fights, and draws Gregory Rodriguez. Well, we know RoboCop now because he's in the UFC. But interesting enough, Josh Frem's a minus 245 favorite over Rodriguez. He's the touted prospect. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He's got good cardio. He comes in. He does not move his head. He tends to sling it a little high in the air. Rodriguez just plows him with an overhand right, knocks this guy out clean. It's a bad knockout, truth be told. It's a bad knockout. But he comes right back from it. In his last 2 wins, Renato Volante, Joel Bowman. You see he likes to overwhelm opponents a little bit. His striking is decent. He's not showing off enough wrestling. But the Joel Bowman fight, first round stands with him, second round gets the easy money takedown, takes the back, puts in the rear naked choke. He's one of these guys that, because he's training at elevation out of a good camp, he's going to have 3-round cardio. His striking is, I think his striking is a little cleaner, a little more refined than Hernandez. I think his wrestling is good enough to keep the fight standing and not get himself into any submission threats. I'm thinking he could even score takedowns and do a little bit of decent work on Hernandez from top position. The one thing is, Rodriguez knocked him out. Dude, he didn't just get stopped. He got torched. So Hernandez can back a bit of power himself. And I'm thinking there's a certain possibility that maybe he just clips Frem and puts him away. But at this point, I have 2 underdogs. They're both the women's MMA fights. I'm not pulling the trigger on Darian Weeks. I decided to go the other way and go Ian Garry. Not all the favorites are going to win this card. There's going to be dogs coming through. This is it's minus 190 Anthony Hernandez. The price is wrong here. Frem just has a very unsexy sounding name and a very unsexy looking record to the average person. And I think they're kind of overlooking him a tad bit. So sign me up for Frem. And this is going to be really low on the PRP list, my friends.
Yeah, friends don't let friends bet on friend. I don't know. I saw a lot of the same things. Like that Gregory Rodriguez knockout was one really, really bad. And he just has this tendency to just stand so upright. His chin is right up in the air. This is another one where it's kind of interesting. The under was, it was minus 165 to the under 1.5 rounds. That was when I was doing my tape and I hadn't even looked at the lines. I was like, man, there could be some good value on the under here. And it's just already, 1.5 is juiced to minus 140. Fight doesn't go to the decision. It's minus 400 out there right now. Fremd inside now that you like your boy Fremd, I'm thinking it gets done inside the distance. I guess if I was going to do it, because the funny thing about Fluffy Hernandez is, he's he holds. This is probably like a once in a lifetime. You'll never see something like this again. He holds a submission win over Rodolfo Vieira and a submission loss to Marcus Perez, which is just absolutely insane to say out loud. But the Vieira submission is because Vieira, one, had a bad cut. He basically flat out, rather than taking damage on the feet, I feel like Rodolfo Vieira basically just accepted his fate in that spot. He was so gassed, so cooked, gave him his neck, and didn't really fight back against it because he knew he didn't have another 6 minutes of gas in the tank. Yeah. I'm never gonna end up betting Anthony Hernandez at minus 200 against anybody in the UFC. I didn't love what I saw from Fremd, but I guess it is a dogger pass situation. I'm not going to get to this one. It terrifies me too much. Moving on down, we've got Piera Rodriguez taking on Kay Hansen, minus 115. Rodriguez, minus 105 for Kay Hansen. Piera Rodriguez on the Contender Series was taking on Tina Black, Valeska Machado. And they even said it on the broadcast that she's very, very selective and composed in her approach. I think she'll have an advantage on the feet. She obviously trains with Mackenzie Dern, so it's in theory, Sabino Mazo also trains with them, and you don't really see all of that coming together for her either. But in theory, a lot of the stuff that Kay does on the ground, she should be well equipped from training with these high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners on a daily basis, but who knows? I think she should, technically speaking, she should have an advantage on the feet. The cleaner, crisper strikes, the better technique. Kay is a little bit more wild, throwing spin and things, because she wants to get the fight to the mat. I don't know. This one is a properly priced pick'em as far as I'm concerned. I'm leaning towards Rodriguez, but there really isn't much. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kay get back on the winning track here. It's a flat-out pass for me, but for the purposes of the show, I'll pick Rodriguez. What about you?
Yeah, I've been kind of jumping back and forth on this one myself as well. I initially thought Piera Rodriguez just too strong, too physical, better striker. You watch her in her LFA title fight. She won the title there against Svetlana Gotsic, right? It's a 5-round fight, and she's got some heavy hands on her, man. Throws in 2-3 punch combinations, backs her up, aggressive. Every time she gets tagged, she's just smiling, having herself a great time. And then in the 5th round is just whoop, time to turn up the heat and just push the pressure on her, knocks her out in the 5th round. And so it was wow, this girl's got cardio. She's got pressure. She's got pace. Striking looked good. She trains with Mackenzie Dern and Vanessa Demopoulos, so her ground game should be very good. A lot that you can like out of here. So they bring her on the Contender Series, and I'm thinking, let's hammer this line. So does everybody else. She's a minus 350 favorite, like some Piera Rodriguez. Yet not the case. So she comes out against Machado, and it's a much different fight. The first round, she's getting outstruck, but then she relies on her grappling a little bit, is able to get the fight to the ground, wins the first round. Second round, she gasses out. This is a girl that just fought 5 rounds for the LFA title, didn't even break a sweat, is now tired in the 2nd round against Machado. Machado outstrikers in the 2nd. As far as I'm concerned, this is 1-1 going into the 3rd round. 3rd round's close. It's competitive. She gets a takedown a minute in. Machado gets back up. Machado starts to outstrike her. There's 30 seconds left, and she catches a knee to the body and just falls on top of Machado. That top position secures the 3rd round for her. She wins. She's gassed in a 3-rounder. And her striking did not look good. She's relying on her wrestling. She didn't show no wrestling against Svetlana Gotsic. She was all striking. And now striking is seriously not all that good. I didn't think she looked particularly good against Velasco Machado. So now you got Kay Hansen. Well, Kay Hansen's kind of a bust herself. She signed with the UFC. She's 21 years old. And while as we've come to see, other than that goddamn Makayev, he looks like he might be the real deal for 21-year-old. Cost me. But yeah, Hansen just at 21, she's just too young for the division. She hasn't looked good, I didn't think, in most of her spots. Jinyu Frey, you can argue that she's lost the first 2 rounds. Maybe she won the 2nd. She doesn't look all that good. Her striking looks bad. She's 2-5 as a pro boxer. Her wrestling's not very good. what part of her game do you really like? She's cute, I'll give her that. But I don't know, man. I don't know. She gets the win. Perfect. Third round submission. Okay, we can build off that young fighter. The next one against Corey McKenna, there's an argument she won the fight. There's an argument she wins the first round. She gets the takedown. She spends 2 minutes on top. Second round's a lot more close competitive. I give McKenna the second round. Third round, Kay Hansen does get the fight to the ground. She scores the takedown. She spends 2 minutes in top control. She even gets the back, but she does nothing. She does no ground and pound, no damage. There's nothing. It's just trying to hold on. And then McKenna gets on top with like 35 seconds, just goes to town with some decent ground and pound. She wanted it more. She breaks Hansen. Hansen's still young. And then that Jasmine fight, first round starts off real well. She gets the takedown.
Size mattered there.
Yeah, establishes some top control on her. And then the longer the fight goes, second and the third, she can't get nowhere near Jasmine. Jasmine just starts leaning on her. So, again, she's still only 22 years old. Could have won the McKenna fight, I suppose. And then she's 2-1 in the UFC, and you wouldn't be feeling that bad for her. But she's still, in my opinion, got a little bit of a ways to go. The reason why I'm going to take the slight underdog shot here is that, it's another dog or pass situation as far as I'm concerned. Kay Hansen has scored takedowns in all three of her UFC fights. Took Junior Frey down twice, took down Corey McCann twice, took down Jasmine Dasavidius. The Jasmine fight, as you mentioned, Jas is 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. That was tough to overcome. When you look at Piera Rodriguez, she has a 63-inch reach, which I think is the exact same as Kay Hansen's. So she's going to be fighting someone her size that stands in front of her. Rodriguez is super hittable. She gets hit all the time, but she smiles it off, right? She got a hell of a chin. But it doesn't look good optically when you're getting hit and then getting taken down. And I think that's what Kay Hansen is going to look to do. Her striking is going to be good enough to land a couple shots here and there, but I think she'll press for the takedown. She has taken down all three of her UFC opponents. No reason to believe she won't take down Rodriguez. And the one thing with Rodriguez is, as much as she does train with good jiu-jitsu fighters, she's not great at getting back up. Like, she's a little bit immobile off of her back. So, dog or pass. I'm taking the underdog in the 3 women MMA fights, even though this is -105. This is a classic reason of why the bookie always wins. Like, they get juice on either side, right? So
that's the game.
That's the game. That's the game. We're just trying to be a player in it.
And to answer your question from earlier, Piera Rodriguez versus Kay Hansen is the cranberry sauce fight of the night for everybody except for Kay Hansen's OnlyFans simps, who I'm sure are very into this. But yeah, moving on down, we've got it's the first fight of the night. Julio Arce taking on Daniel Willie Cat Santos. -180 Arce, +155 Santos. I mean, I tried to find tape on Danny Willie Cat. I was able to find some really, really old stuff. His Brave CF fight, not available online anywhere I was able to look. It's really, really hard to know for a 27-year-old kid who hasn't fought since December of 2019 before a pandemic. Like, think of all the things that have happened in that amount of time. It's 2.5 years. He won by armbar. I couldn't find the tape on that. I was able to find, I believe, I can't even recall. There's a couple fights. The Cleaverson Silva fight from 2016 I was able to find when he's just a little kid at that point. I think Jose Alexandre, the Thunder Fight 6, I was able to find. I didn't think he looked all that bad. He trains with Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He's out of that gym. The big real, he's just a massive question mark, essentially, because I mean, if you're 27 years old, you're an MMA fighter, has he been injured, or has he been spending a lot of time at the gym getting a hell of a lot better? Because if he's spent a lot of time getting a lot better, I mean, I thought his striking looked pretty solid, and he seems to have a bit of a grappling game too. So, like, I'm really torn on this. I don't really want to bet Arce because I think the chin has started to show that maybe a little bit of a liability. And I worry that, like, this Santos kid's all of a sudden just going to show up. I think I am going to play this Santos kid because of all, like, the one thing I've got over you Ontario folk, so I'm still allowed to play DraftKings out here. I think I'm going to play this Santos kid on DraftKings because I think nobody is going to own him because there's, like, literally hardly any tape out there. nobody's going to have a very, very firm stance on this fight in general. I think he's going to be like sub 10%. I think that this is a fight that very well could be high-paced, high action, and has high finish probabilities. So, I mean, it's hard not to quote-unquote pick Arce because we've just seen a lot more tape on him. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this kid show up if he's really made some serious improvements since then. But yeah, more of a DraftKings play for me, just because I think he'll be like sub 10% because nobody knows what to do with him. What are your thoughts here?
Well, listen, he's definitely got the unknown factor because he's been off for 2.5 years, but he's only 27 years old. So the natural progression of a fighter likely occurred. You would assume you're getting a better guy that's coming back than the guy that left. He's still young enough. And the guy's got some variables to him, man. He is a fighter. He likes to fight. He likes to come forward. He likes to swing big hooks over the top, and he likes to scrap. Not only that, he throws just a ton of spinning technique. And it's just he catches guys spinning back fists, spinning back kicks, spinning hook kicks, spinning back kicks to the body. This is one of these techniques that he might clip you with something. Whereas finding tape on him is limited. You do see on his record spinning back elbow. You see on his record spinning back kick to the body. You see on his record another spinning back kick. Doesn't save it to the body. Oh, that one's to the head, that Fenrique Fantini guy. No, that one's to the body. But you can go Willie Cat K1 on YouTube, right? And he's got a pile of kickboxing fights. And there's a whole lot of wheel kicks to the head there too. He hits this dude. It initially looks like the guy blocks it. On the replay, like the ball of the heel like clips the guy in the top of the head. It looks like a tomahawk took this guy in the side of the head. Like a chunk of his head's missing, man. It's like, oh my God. Willie Cat is dangerous. But Willie Cat is super hittable. And everything he throws is hooks. Right? He comes straight and he throws wide. Doesn't throw straight. Doesn't move on an angle. Doesn't move his head. He's there for the taking. And he's not particularly all that fast either. It's that he's aggressive and he stays in your face and he eventually breaks you. A lot of the guys he's fighting are somewhat limited. But again, he gets on them and he breaks them. I also like this Ario dos Santos fight, 3rd round choke or anaconda choke. The Jose Alexander fight, 3rd round TKO. He's got another 2nd round TKO on his record. Whereas sometimes he's losing the first bit of the round. Maybe even loses the first round, but he just keeps coming at you. Now, anyways, signs with ACB. Why would anybody want to do that, right? This Duke Vaca Ostamirov can't find the fight. I can't find it, but that guy is actually a legitimate enough fighter. Hadn't fought a whole lot of good guys, but is himself pretty sturdy. Murat Kalimov is a stud, right? This is an excellent fighter. He loses a decision to him, and then he's rebound. You can watch this Henrique Fantini fight online, and then Nizabak Zanov. Again, he just gets a quick little arm bar. Not much to see, I guess. But Arce should absolutely take this guy's lunch money, right? Until this guy eventually clips him with something over the top and knocks Arce out. Like, that's kind of how it keeps playing off in my head. I'm going to take Arce, but I got a feeling that I might be paying for this one. It's first fight on the card. You could rebuild. Not going to put Arce super, super high up. But I think it's recency bias with Arce. His last fight against Song Yadong, it does not look good. First round's competitive. Second round, he gets knocked out. First time in his career that he'd been knocked out. This is not a good look. The fight prior with Andre Ewell, that was the best he's ever looked, right? The guy is extremely skillful, southpaw, former Golden Glove boxer, BJJ black belt, trains with one of the best camps in the East Coast. Like, he's got a lot going well for him. He just happened to lose to Song Yadong, who is one of the best bantamweight prospects. He's just one of the best, right? He's lost to Hakeem Dawodu on a competitive split decision. And Hakeem Dawodu, he's solid. This is a good fighter. He's a good fighter, and he's at 145 pounds, okay? Now he's down to 135. Does he beat Daniel Santos? Well, he's a lot faster than him. He's a lot rangier than him. His best weapons is his jab. And Daniel Santos, that's actually his biggest weakness seems to be his jab, right? Or his lack of defense of the jab. I think that he's just going to get danced on and styled on. Probably goes to 15 minutes. Maybe Arce clips him with something. But there's a bad gut feeling that this kid's not going to go away. He's not going to go quietly. He's probably made a bunch of improvements over the last 2.5 years. And it's his UFC debut. He's got nothing to lose. He's in a venue with a bunch of screaming wild fans. He's going to come in and he's going to swing on him. And that makes me a little bit worried because Arce versus Shayman Moraes, he gets dropped twice. It's not a particularly good look. And this Daniel Santos kid, I bet you he's got a damn good story. I'd say that because if you look at his record, right, he wins his first 5 fights and he beats this Erwin Machado, who's not bad, by the way, okay? Then you'll see he's got a canceled bout with Adrian Yanez at Legacy 50. The fight actually gets pushed back 4 weeks later to Bellator 149, and Santos has a visa issue. So Supposed to fight Adrian Yanez, Bellator 149, 6 years ago. 6 years ago. Visa issue. And that regulates him back to Brazil. And then he only fights twice in Brazil and has to go to Russia and fight a bunch of tough-ass Russians. So I bet you he's super skilled. I bet you he was a legitimate prospect. They tried to get him stateside. Visa issues tampered with his career. Now he doesn't fight all that often. But the skill's probably continuously getting there. And because of the line, it could be somewhat of a trap. But that's all narrative and speculation. And I try to go with who's got the better skill set on paper, though you can see. And that's Julio Arce. So I'm going to go with Julio.
All right. Quickly rifle through what I am betting this week. I've got Pichel round 3 plus 1,600. Pichel money line minus 127, minus 122. I see a minus one. I've got a little bit of both. It seems like money keeps piling in on Mark Madsen because I see like a minus 122, a minus 121 out there, minus 130 at DraftKings Sportsbook, but it's like the entire market just keeps moving. So I don't know whether I should wait to re-up, or is the Pichel whisper actually a thing? And when we release this show out, is that going to go the other way? But I need more money on it because, the number of books I have right now is pretty laughable based on what I've grown accustomed to. It is what it is. We've got Pichel. We've got Aleksei Oleinik plus 100. Plus, we've got a little shoey bet with me and you. And Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie fight doesn't go to decision plus 137. That is what I'm on right now. At Paul Shag on Twitter. I'll drop whatever else I add over the course of the week. I'll probably end up with Chimaev by knockout and Garry by knockout. Those are two other spots that I'm interested in. Without further ado, hit him with the PRP, kid.
Yeah, okay, so blind man give you this first one, right? Volkanovski, Jan Chimaev. That's probably also the basis of your top ticket. I'd love to get Jan down to that second level, but this is the tricky part. Who's on the second line? You need two people on the second line, and that's where it's not as uncertain. But we're going with the top three, then we're going with Torres as dog number 1, Vinc Pichel, Ian Garry, Rozenstruik, Aspen Ladd, dog number 2, Mike Malott, Jared Vanderaa, dog number 3, Josh Frem, dog number 4, Kay Hansen, dog number 5, Julio Arce. When I say 5 underdogs, no, it's like 5 even money picks. I think they're all 5 even money picks, right? Yeah. Who's my biggest dog on the card?
I think Frem was the biggest one you took.
Oh, yeah. Plus 160 Aspen Ladd. And Frem is plus 160 as well. Those are actual underdogs.
Yeah, no.
Those are actual underdogs. You got 3 even money picks.
I'm not going to call you.
The key here is that, no, the key is you go Volkanovski, Jan Chimaev at the top. Now it's like, who's that second line, right? The issues would be Torres, it's a women's MMA match. Vinc Pichel, I like him, dude. I like him. But, wrestling will be an issue early. Weeks is just not improved enough. Rozenstruik's way too tentative. Aspen Ladd's name's Aspen Ladd. Keep that in mind. Mike Malott hasn't fought in more than a round in 7 years. And when he did, it didn't go well. Jared Vander's in a middling heavyweight fight. Josh Frem, yeah, I'm going to want this second ticket. Yeah, okay. Kay Hansen, what the hell? And then Arce, got a bad feeling about Arce. So it's very straightforward in the beginning, and then it's going to be risk city after that. So buyers beware, do your research, feel who you like the best, and we're going to work our way through this. I feel confident about it, but we're going to need some of these even money picks to be those swing bouts, give us that plus money and juice it up for us. And then hopefully, if there are any apple pie shitters, get them at the bottom where it doesn't matter. We've got to secure them top 3 tickets. That looks to be a little bit easier said than done, but I'm optimistic we'll make it happen. And of course, watch the weigh-ins, because at the weigh-ins, you're going to see that Chimaev's going to be twice the size of Burns. You're going to see the Aspen Lads clattering and shaking, and they got a towel out, and it's like, God damn it, why does this always happen?
She's gonna need the Hurtin' Curtain, 100%.
Yeah.
Hurtin' Curtain is coming out. It's probably like 70-30 whether the Hurtin' Curtain comes out for Aspen Ladd stepping on the scale. I would
max bet that personally, because I think even if she has a good weight cut, she's still gonna use it for sure.
It's gonna be ugly.
And last but not least, you want to watch the weigh-ins so that you can see Jared Vanderaa is huge, and then you get all excited, and then you put a little too much, and then you get scarf hold on Saturday night. So the weigh-ins always gives you that last bit of information.
I will be very fired up.
If
Oleinik wins by scarf hold, you have to do a shoey. My hero gets a win when it seems like he's definitely on the way out the door. Good times.
I'll tell you something. He's done it to me before, mainly the Mark Hunt fight. I'm all over Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt is going to kill this man. But no. Old-time Oleinik. Always got something in the back pocket. But I'll admit, I get the same feeling. I'll get the same feeling is when Paul Craig hits a triangle. It's like, God damn it. Is this real world? Is this real life? Because we talk about it till the cows come home, and then nobody pulls the trigger on it. And then it happens. Happens all the time. Like, Paul Craig by submission and Aleksei Oleinik by submission. I get that same pit feeling where it's like
the numbers aren't
stupid.
The numbers aren't great on that Oleinik by submission prop though, because like Paul Craig was like a plus 170 or plus 170 underdog, but for him to win by submission was like plus 450. Oleinik's like plus 160, plus 165 by sub. It's like they know that like it's very like if he's going to win, it's because he gets a takedown relatively early and is able to scoop up an Ezekiel or a scarf hold. That's his game. That's pretty much all his game is. I'll be really happy if he gets the win, both because I get to watch you in the big screen, and yeah. And then hopefully he retires, because that's like, I mean, it's getting a little bit much at this point. He's so old. He's got so many fights. He has nothing to prove anymore. Anyway, that is it for us.
You know what should happen? Let me get this in. This is what should happen. If he goes out there and submits Jared Vanderaa first round with a scarf hold, and then Aleksei Oleinik takes off his gloves, puts him down, Jared Vanderaa should also put his gloves down as well. That's straight up, dog. Straight up. If he submits you in the first round, it's over. It's over. I'm sorry.
He's taking the fight on short notice.
Spend time with them.
It's not like he was. Yeah. He wasn't preparing for this spot, so it's not like he's been doing like tons of scarf hold defense. Maybe he's never been in a scarf hold before. How's that make you feel?
Yeah, it doesn't make me feel good, but I honestly thought he did beat Andrei Arlovski. Like, I thought he should have probably been edged the decision. It was a greasy Arlovski typical performance, and Arlovski always wins those kind of fights. So I wasn't upset by no stretch, but in like terrible. And I would think the UFC were like, we'll give you one more. We'll give you one more. You clearly can't stuff a takedown. We gave you an age striker that threw 50 significant strikes. You couldn't even handle that. We'll give you one more. You got to stay in shape. And he got, I forget, they gave him some original opponent. I don't know if it's listed anywhere. They had him like tied to some other car. Oh yeah, maybe not. If you're Aleksei Oleinik, you're supposed to fight 2 weeks ago against Latifi. So you get ready for this fight. You show up and they're like, yeah, fight's not happening. And it gets rebooked. You're still fighting Latifi, and it's like, oh yeah, you know that dude that weighs 210, 220? He's 5'8". He's supposed to be fighting at middleweight, but he chooses to fight at heavyweight. You know that guy's out. Yeah, and I see that guy that they call the Mountain. He's 6'4", 265 pounds. Walks around closer to 280. Yeah, no,
I think that's
I'm
6'4".
Like, come on, dude, isn't that a big?
I think that's
a big stretch.
That 6'4" on Vanderaa is just so fraudulent, though. Because like, go watch that Spivak fight, because Spivak's listed at 6'3", and Spivak's way taller than him.
That's fair. I did notice that Spivak's way taller than him, but I'm saying the only thing more fraudulent that is that 5'10" on Latifi. No way, dog. No way he's 5'10".
Oh yeah, he's like 5'7", stretching it.
He's not a tall man.
He's way
not a tall man.
Yeah.
He's about as thick as he is.
He's
tall.
about as tall as like a horse jockey, but he is far. That man is way too. Like, you'd be killing horses trying to. I mean, that's why there's pictures of him. Well, there's a picture of him on the back of a noble steed, but yeah. Anyway,
that horse was never seen again after that picture was taken.
That's true.
They say that Aleksei Overeem and Latifi have a similar diet. Those two guys have very similar diets. Love to eat the horse meat.
Off to the glue factory for him. All right, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Pat Mayo and Cody Saftic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.